So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Manhunt, 1941, starring Walter Pidgeon, Joan Bennett, John Carradine, Roddy McDowall, and George Sanders. George Sanders and Joan Bennett were in Son of Monte Cristo, which is much better than this. I can't stand Fritz Lang. I'm telling you. This is about what you'd expect from 1941 war propaganda. I guess Fritz Lang made 5 films like this because Der Fuhrer asked him to be the cinematic champion of Nazi Germany. He escaped somehow, and he started making these Hollywood movies instead, railing against Hitler. Which is fine. I mean, it was anti-war hysteria by 1941 anyway. So good timing for him. But yeah, there was a lot of pro-war hysteria. Did I say anti-war? Anyway. 1941 was a good year to make a propaganda war film. So probably made a lot of money. A lot of good actors in this one. Fortunately, their talent was wasted. It's like watching Laurel and Hardy from the same time period, or Batman serial from the same time period. Unfortunately, it's not as enjoyable as the Batman serial, though. It's basically about British guy, I guess a sniper, sharpshooter type rifleman. He gets, for some reason, he's in Germany. We never find out why. But he focuses his scope on Hitler himself, Der Fuhrer, and the guy's for some reason he doesn't pull the trigger. He just waits for the Nazi guy to come up to him, and so they capture him. They want him to sign a confession that he's working for the British government. Of course, he refuses to sign because he's got great British character, whatever that means. He doesn't need fish and chips with Joan Bennett. He's one of these uppity class type noblemen, sort of like Prince Charles or Prince Philip. So he manages to escape from the Nazis. They try to push him over a cliff to make it look like an accident. And they torture him. So he's got a scar on his face from getting beat up, roughed up. I always thought the Nazis were more ruthless than that. How could he possibly survive that kind of thing? But somehow he manages to get up and crawl through the mud. Somehow the Nazi hound dogs can't sniff him down. So he takes a boat. The Nazis shine their strong light from their boat onto his boat. So he goes swimming to the ocean liner, I guess. That's where he meets Roddy McDowall. He looks like he's about 10 years old. Roddy McDowall, the Nazis go on the boat. One of them is John Carradine. He plays a Nazi, but he's got a British accent, which doesn't make sense. I don't understand why they cast British actors as Nazis. For one, I mean, George Sanders speaks both German and English. Same with John Carradine. I think John Carradine only mutters one line of German, though. And Walter Pidgeon doesn't even have a British accent. Joan Bennett's British accent sounds ridiculous. She's supposed to be some kind of lower class Londoner. So Walter Pidgeon makes it to London. John Carrady's following him around in the shadows. Walter Pidgeon stumbles upon Joan Bennett's apartment. He's like trying to hide from the Nazis in her apartment. And then she falls in love with him. He takes her to the estate where his brother lives. They're not impressed with their low-life social custom. She calls the police dicks and something else, I forget. But anyway, Walter Pidgeon is constantly trying to escape from the Nazis. John Carradine tries to kill him with a knife in their tunnel. It's only one of these cane knives, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing. A cane that pops out with a sharp edge. So John Carradine has that. He tries to kill Walter Pidgeon, but Walter Pidgeon pushes him on the underground third rail. He gets electrocuted. And then they say that it's Walter Pidgeon who died. I guess he's called Thorndyke. So everybody thinks that Thorndyke was murdered. The police are looking for him for some reason that I can't determine. And then he says goodbye to Joan Bennett. She's all teary-eyed and whatever. They're about to kiss, and the constable interrupts them. And then he goes off to Kenya to hide in some cave. But the Nazis end up killing Joan Bennett off screen, of course. I guess they throw her through a window and she lands from high up on the concrete below, or the cement below. And they try to stage it as an accident. All this is happening right around the time where Germany invaded Poland, started bombing London. So that's when the propaganda starts. George Sanders got a forwarding address from Joan Bennett before he killed her. And then he found Walter Pidgeon's cave. And Walter Pidgeon, before he goes to Kenya, he buys Joan Bennett a little arrow for her beret hat. It's kind of silly that he ends up using it on George Sanders. He makes a pretty cool looking makeshift bow and arrow. George Sanders gets it to the head, but before he dies, he shoots Walter Pidgeon. Then there's a bunch of war stuff going on, and a big long pro-war type narration at the end. I don't think I spoiled anything really, because the ending is really, it is what it is. It's really an anti-climax type thing. So I didn't enjoy this movie. I hated it. I think this is worse than last movie I saw by Fritz Lang. Oh yeah. Well, I suppose it's okay for a German to feel guilty about what the Nazis did. Kind of reminds me of that Yui Bowl guy, but I haven't seen too many Yui Bowl movies in my lifetime. Anyways, Nazi Germany wasn't. A lot of people forget that Nazi Germany was National Socialism, similar to what was happening in Great Britain and the United States during the 30s. So not too much difference there. Maybe even adopted some of the more communist planks in all three countries. So really, it's just Nazism is just a variant of socialism or communism. Maybe mix in a little private property with private ownership of property with heavy regulation, similar to the United States today. So, anyways, that's about all I have to say in this movie. They don't really go into detail about how Hitler exterminated the Jewish race, or he tried to. Was it 12 million people or something? But I guess by then they didn't know the extent of the slaughter that Hitler had inflicted on the Jews that were living in Germany. So Walter Pidgeon has this sort of, towards the end when he's talking to George Sanders in the cave, he talks about how Hitler is a killing machine. It sort of alludes to what happened when they discovered all the horrific crimes committed by Hitler. But then he says like Great Britain is a bastion of freedom, or he's some kind of freedom guy. Then he goes to war to presumably kill a bunch of Germans. So it's all a big mess like that. Doesn't really make sense, but you have to recognize for the time there, people thought that the Germans were the most evil people on the planet. Which is probably true. I don't know if they could have avoided war since they were being attacked, but anyways. It is what it is, 1941. Fritz Lang. I wish I could be a fan of Fritz Lang's films. Like I said, I've never seen M. I've seen some of his noir type stuff. I wasn't impressed. And the film with Godard is just absolutely ridiculously ancient Greek tragedy film within a film. Oh boy. That was horrible. And then the extras, the two of them are just sitting around smoking cigarettes, patting each other on the back. Oh. Don't get me started on Fritz Lang. Anyway, it's unfortunate that such great talent was wasted. I mean, Joan Bennett was in Dark Shadows and Suspiria. John Carradine was probably in 800 movies, for all I know. He's definitely got more movies under his belt than Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff. And people say that they're the masters of horror, but take a look at John Carradine, the movies he's been in. Yeah. That guy was a workaholic, just like his son, David Carradine. But he's got John Carradine, too. John Carradine has another son who's in Revenge of the Nerds. Yeah, some 70s B movies, some 80s B movies from Canon. It's a pretty cool family. If you ask me, there've been a lot of B movies. But I wouldn't call this a B movie because it's got Fritz Lang, but it's in black and white. It's kind of low budget film, which is cool. I mean, you get to see the London fog and everything. So anyways, sorry that I'm not a pro-war person per se, but hey, that doesn't excuse what Hitler did, certainly, to Europe. And Europe was our friends at the time, so I had to go after Hitler. Russia too, or the USSR was our friend. War makes strange bedfellows, let me tell you. And FDR was probably wasn't healthy enough to make those kind of decisions to enslave half of Europe under communism, but that's getting a little bit too far ahead of ourselves, towards the mid-40s. Anyway, interesting time period. Definitely a lot of war hysteria, as evidenced by this film and the other two, the film and the serial that I mentioned. So don't waste your time on this flick. It's definitely not one of Fritz Lang's better films. And that's not really saying much, but anyway. If you're a Fritz Lang fan, you probably might not enjoy this one. I saw it on Netflix, Instant View, and those are the ones that tend to be crap anyway compared to the DVD selections. At least that's been my experience. So anyways, guess I'll watch romantic comedy now. It's on my list here. Caravans. Starring Anthony Quinn. Oh, this might be interesting. It's supposed to be a romantic movie with Anthony Quinn. And I might like it since it's got Anthony Quinn. And I was interested in The Devil's Eight. Saw that recently. So it must be similar to The Devil's Eight. It says rated PG, 125 minutes, 1978. An American diplomat is tasked with retrieving a famous politician's daughter who is married to an Iranian colonel but has run off with the rebel leader. That sounds pretty cheesy. My kind of flick. Anyway, if you watch the beginning of Naked Gun 2, that's what it that's pretty much the plot line there. Anyways, that's the end of my review. Laters.